God believes knowledge is a global property. So you take knowledge from wherever it comes from, but apply it to suit your situation. It is common property of the world. Wisdom is profound, but it is not enough.
But what has hindered us up to this point is poor leadership. We have all it takes. There's nothing we lack in Cross University.
The university cannot change you except you don't know what you went there for.
But you know what? The world is better when we are cooperating.
There is no man with a vision of things.
There's nothing bad starting from a locality.
Follow the steps and you'll find success at the end. We had a great time last year, and I'm very sure that this year is going to be a double amazing moment all through. My name is Joseph, and I work with Cross River Broadcasting Corporation, CRBC Calabar, and I'm going to be one of your hosts all through the event. I'll be glad to work with my very delectable sister Janet Effium. Janet, please could you join me on the stage now? Put your hands together for Janet, please. Janet is an amazing woman who has worked in 3 radio stations within the space of 2 years. She has worked with Atlantic FM. She has worked with the Canaan City. She has worked with CRBC, both radio and television. Once again, please let's celebrate our own.
Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me. I am most delighted to be your host, and of course, to be a co-host to my brother, big brother. Of course, he brought me to the industry, so every time I have to give you that. So it's a privilege, sir, to be a co-host with you. Thank you very much for having me.
You know, it's family, because I sat there and I saw my very amazing in-law. I said, "Who is that?" He said, "That's Dr. Paul Simon." I said, "Wow, that's my in-law." I just said, "That's my uncle." I said, "That means you are family." Let me talk a little bit about one of the resource persons we are going to have in the course of this conference. I mean, I've known Apostle Dr. Paul Simon for over 35 years. He used to be my family's physician. You know, back then, Charles Infirmary, one at the Getson and one along the school, the Charles Walker School. I mean, he was amazing man. It has to do with the medical profession. He's been an amazing man. So, Uncle, I'm so happy that you know, the way you impacted on us medically, you've also impacted on us spiritually. So please let's celebrate my uncle, my in-law, and your uncle, and our uncle now. Let me also talk a little bit about my brother, Bryce. He's an amazing man. You know, way back in the years of Debonia, in the 90s, he's an amazing singer, and is here in a capacity representing the EFAC Leadership Foundation. Please let's celebrate Barrister Esu. So good to have you, sir. So good to have you. He made a paper in an event I emceed on security, and he did a great job. He did a great job. Now, there's a man I also want to talk about, Janet. This man, the first time I saw him was last year at the hotel along Marion, Freeman's Hotel, yeah. Janet. And this man changed my mentality a whole lot about doing civil service job. There's something he said, and I can't forget in a hurry. He said the field we are seeing today may not last up to 30, 50 years. But the next generation of investment is in gas. That gas we've not even explored up to 3%. They are about, I think he gave us statistics about there are trillions, you know, of this high calculator is still there that we are yet to explore. And I'm talking of Engineer Emmanuel Sam. Let's celebrate him. He's there at the back with his very beautiful wife.
If you don't mind, sir, please, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, would like to invite the personality of Engineer and Mrs. Nzioka to their seats. Please, a round of applause as they take their seats. Thank you.
And just to remind us that he is the managing director and CEO of Chari Zaris Limited. Please let's put our hands together for him. There's something you need to know about Dr. Paul Simon. He is the vision coordinator of Hope of Glory Foundation. He's one man who is proud to be an EFAC man. If this man gives you the history of EFAC, some people feel that the EFAC are those that have been relegated to the background, but he carries a different message about the EFAC. You can be EFAC and you still make heaven. You can be EFAC and you're still a successful businessman. So once again, let's celebrate our resource person. Is here already. Let me also celebrate Mr. Joseph Idiege. He's the managing partner, Street Stores Project and Prime Height Properties. Please let's put our hands together for him. Yes. And let's also celebrate Professor Francis Bisong. He's a convener and chairman, African Green Growth and Development Forum. Please let's celebrate the man who has reached the acme of teaching. Now, I want us to celebrate the vision bearer of SLI. This man is an amazing man. I mean, the first time I came in contact with him last year through my sister, you see a man and you just fell in love with him because he's a man who is down to earth, very humble and highly intelligent. Just on Saturday, Janet, my wife put to birth some days back.
Oh, please, a round of applause for him.
and that's my third and my final. So, Uncle, that's my third and my final. I can't go again. Let me not stress. So, but I don't look it, right? Someone said to me, this small Jew, you have 3 children already. I said, okay. If you know my age, don't worry. Let's not get it. But he came to me on Saturday and he gave me a very beautiful envelope. Let's celebrate the lead consultant of Seashore Leadership Initiative, my boss, Mr. Emmanuel Sam. Please put your hands together. Let's celebrate him. Let's celebrate him. Let's celebrate him. Let's celebrate him. Now, let me quickly hand the moment to the other chair of me, Janet. Janet is going to take us through the moments we had last year. I was a part of it and I cannot regret those moments I had last year. Amazing memories. So she's going to take us through very briefly the great times we had last year, and that should set the tone for what we'll be experiencing from now, at least in the next 5 days. Janet?
Thank you very much, MC Joseph. So last year, in the first maiden edition, it was talking about strategic wealth and investment summit. And last year's theme was the future beyond the horizon. Highlights of what was discussed: discerning the global prophetic templates for the times economically, uncovering the great deception of the media, accessing God's channel of investment towards the future, AI, 5G, blockchain, real estate, social media, agriculture, crude oil, etc. I'm sure that sounds familiar for the AI guys, all the guru people and artificial intelligence and 5G and everything. The funny thing is, this highlight was, I think, last year. Yeah, last year. And already this year, we're seeing all of this is already trending, is what we have right in front of us. So we can imagine that the highlight of this year, it's already here, and I believe that is already going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years. So one of the reasons why we're having this conference is to prepare our mentality, prepare our capacity to handle what is coming in the next 2 to 3, 5 years from now. So because we can clearly say that the conference that we held last year already prepared our minds for what is taking place now and in the future. So I strongly believe, I don't know if anyone has the same belief with me, but I can attest to MC Joe, my brother. I'm sure he has the same belief with me, but I strongly believe that this year we're here to build capacity to handle what is coming in the next 5 years. That's a good place to say hallelujah.
Sure, hallelujah. And also, what we'll be expecting this year? This year we go with an amazing theme: leadership in the new dispensation. Leadership. I think this theme is very apt because it speaks so much volume. Now that there is INEC said they can transmit results electronically, and the Senate say that they cannot transmit results. That is taking us backward like 30 to 50 years ago. But if we have a leader in the new dispensation, a lot of things will sure change. Can I have a witness in the house? Sure. Because someone was asking a question: if you use the card reader, which is an electronic device, why can't you use the same thing to transmit results? Now, these guys are trying to keep us in the dark. And how I wish SLI would have this kind of event in Abuja, that the senators will attend and know, look, we have moved away from the past. We are aiming forward, leadership in the new dispensation. I think let's give a big hand to the convener. Let's give a big hand. I mean, his choice of theme is awesome.
Amazingly, some persons called me this morning from Borno, Bauchi, and Yobe. The person who called me from Yobe was aggressively pressing charges, like they say. Why is this happening in the south? What happens to the north? And I'm like, I'm sorry, sir, we're coming to the north next year. That is too far. And someone from Bauchi was like, is there a way we can stream this? Is there a way we can send an audio, a video all the way through? And the same thing with someone from Yobe. So what you're saying is really not far-fetched.
Sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. We'll sure get there. Now, there's a few highlights we would be expecting in the course of our leadership program all through some days now. We're having leadership intelligence. Very important. Leadership intelligence. I wouldn't want to say that if some leaders, political leaders, are not intelligent. I wouldn't want to say that. So that I not say it from my mouth. I don't know who is recording me. Before they say, oh, Joseph Iyan, that CRBC guy, that controversial guy, said, no, I'm not saying that too. But if you are here, you learn leadership intelligence.
Yeah. And part of what we'll be featuring for these 5 days, we'll be talking about economic development. And we must say that that's very strategic in the times where we're in, because economy is what is almost, I wouldn't say, but a lot of other sectors are thriving. But if we critically look at the economic sector, we can say that, of course, Nigeria is going to go a step further if we build on our economic advancement.
Recently, some weeks back, it was already in the media space that Nigeria is owing over 33 trillion naira. And now with the loan approved by the National Assembly, in the next few weeks, Nigeria will be owing over 37 trillion naira. And now we're about 200 million in Nigeria. Divide that, so you know how much you are owing. So you get to know how much you're owing. Innocent you, right? So these guys, they keep borrowing. So you just simply do that math. 37 trillion divided by 200 million Nigerians. And you know what Joseph Iyan is owing. You know what Janet is owing.
I'm not Nigerian.
You're not Nigerian?
Today, no.
Okay. Okay. So another aspect we'll be looking at in the course of our program would be corporate sector advancement. Corporate sector advancement. I think Nigeria is doing pretty good in the corporate sector, especially the private sector. They are doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So we'll look at that. And after this segment, after this event, there should be a corporate body would move a notch higher in this regard. Ladies and gentlemen, please could we celebrate this amazing man? If you can give him a standing ovation, do. The Executive Director, Lead Consultant, Seashore Leadership Initiative SLR, Mr. Emmanuel Sam. Is that how you celebrate this great man? This man, Nigeria is looking for him.
Oh, yeah.
West Africa is looking for him. The world is looking for him. Let's celebrate him. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome, sir. So I did say that Nigeria, indeed, we are making advancements in terms of our corporate sector. So this would add yet another, to push us a bit further.
Still looking at the highlights and features of what we're going to take in the 5 days. This is also really, in fact, I must say, everything we're looking at in these 5 days is very important and strategic at this time. We'll be looking at education, the new paradigm. I know someone who always say, what are we sending our children into the schools that we have now for? What curriculum are they using to raise our children? And like I said earlier, this conference is going to prepare us and build our capacity to what will come in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And of course, the educational system, I'm sure, is going to be overturned into positivity and a new paradigm by some or most of us sitting in this room.
And let me say this quickly. Janet, you agree with me that the Nigerian educational sector is suffering a whole lot. It's suffering a whole lot. Now, take for instance, in 2020, when we had the novel COVID-19, you could see that Nigerian schools had shut down. When other schools were online having lectures, we were waiting for the physical classes, physical contact. Now, all of this, it's so encompassing. We talk about economy in our conference, we talk about the corporate world, and we're also looking at the education. Nigerian education is suffering. I was in Unical yesterday to see one of our lecturers, and I could see the roof itself. I was at the library side, the 3rd floor. It was leaking. So if a lecturer has that kind of mentality, is this kind of office? Some Nigerians, when we talk about brain drain, it starts like that. There is no convenient place for those lecturers to sit down. So some of them, you get to the office, they go, come on, leave my office. They're not happy. They are not happy. They are not happy at all. They are not happy. I was speaking with a lecturer the other time, I think on Monday, and he said he used to receive 208,000. But when IPs came and he subscribed to IPs, his money is now 230. And I then did a very simple calculation. A senator earns about 30 million a month. Now, a lecturer earns 230. This is a senior lecturer, an associate prof in some months to come. Now, let's assume 250, for instance, times 12 months. Please, if someone has a calculator, just do that quickly. Let's do 230, what he receives. 230 times 12 months. Let's do 230. 230 times 12. I'm not good at math, so just help me with calculator. 230,000 times 12. Let's see how much that is. Let's see how much that is. It's about 2 point something million, right? Less than 3 million. Now, he receives in a year the tithe of a senator in a month. And they'll just sit there and do what? The eyes have it. The nays have it. That's all. Some of them don't even go. Take, for instance, when the bill was passed, 28 senators were not available. Where did they go to? But at the end of the month, the eyes will always have it. They go with some 30 million. And the lecturer, you think that lecturer will not be happy? That lecturer would never be happy with the 10% in a whole year of what a man gets in a month. So I think this is very apt. One of the features for this seminar is going to take the Nigerian education to the next paradigm, and I see us being the face of the next paradigm. Okay, I would love you to celebrate yourself. Come on, for being here. Yeah. Celebrate yourself as one of the frontiers.
I was going to ask for a weakness. If you know, we're here, we're game changers. Let's see weaknesses. Game changers, educational sector, economic sector, all spheres. You're a game changer. Okay.
Yeah, and the last but not the least, we'll be looking at digital economy and the marketplace. So trust me, it's going to be an amazing event all through from now till Saturday. Now, try as much as practicable to be here with your body, soul, and spirit. And whatever we get to learn here, let's see how we can push it out there. Okay. On a very lighter note, let me say something. There were 3 brothers, Christian brothers. They were praying. They came to pray. They said, come, let's stay together and pray about our weaknesses. Let's confess our weakness to each other and pray. While they were praying, the first one came to say, oh, let me confess my own so that we can pray for me. He said, my weakness as a child of God is that I lie a lot. He says, that all? That they prayed for him, that they prayed for him. God, every spirit of lie, leave this brother, leave this brother. And that was all. The second one came and said, my own is that I used to steal church money. They said, okay, let's pray for him. They prayed for him. They cast out the spirit of stealing of church money. The next one came and said his own weakness is that he doesn't know how to hide secrets. He talks a lot. The people started crying. Because they knew that as he's living there, he's going to tell people what to sow. Now, but on the flip side of it, positively, as you live here, be like that brother that cannot keep short. Go and tell people about SLI and let's propagate the gospel of SLI. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for yourself.
On what he's saying, just in case you don't know why you should tell someone else to come or invite someone else or tell someone else about the conference or SLI, let me give you what do they call it now? Tip of an iceberg.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So at the course of this conference, we're going to have 5 teams. And these 5 teams are going to be on daily task and a daily competition. Only one team will win. I like the silence now. Somebody say hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yes, we're going to have 5 teams, and each of this team will have a team leader. We'll give you questions tomorrow, and we'll put you on the task, and you will know what your task is. And at the end of the 5 days, just one winner. So there's how it's done.
Okay.
5 crowns, 5 seats, 10 questions, 1 winner. Who takes the crown?
You and I. So okay, maybe we're not allowed to participate, right?
I don't know.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to specially invite for the opening remark. Let's put our hands together for the lead consultant, Seashore Leadership Initiative, Mr. Emmanuel Sam. Let's celebrate him. Let's celebrate him. Let's celebrate him. Come on, keep clapping. Keep clapping.
Thank you, MC Joe. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I want to take out this privilege to especially welcome every one of you who's taken the time out to be here. It's such a wonderful experience for me, and I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful experience for everyone here as well. A meeting like this is not meant to be for the public. And so when one makes out the time to come, we believe that your time will be maximized, effectively well spent, and you're going to go back enhanced. Your value content is going to be stirred up, and you begin to aspire towards that which men may not have touched before. That's our intention, and we hope that you catch the vibe. All right. I also want to take out this privilege to appreciate our facilitators. I'd like us to please celebrate the presence of Dr. Paul Simon. Right? Thank you. We also have the privilege of hosting engineer Emmanuel Nzioka and his corporate partner is absent. That's strange. Something is going on here. She's around? That's not possible. It has never. Oh, okay. Wow, that's his partner over there. His corporate partner and executive wife of many years. I decided to switch the codes. Yes. And a couple of other special guests. I just came in late, sorry. Logistics and all of that. Doing a lot of work to put things in order. So for everyone else, I'm sure I'm going to recognize you. All of you are dignitaries. We believe in you. That's why we say come and partake of the measure. Seashore Leadership Initiative, by the grace of God, a couple of other facilitators are going to be here shortly. But let's just establish what we are about. I'm This is the vision and mission of this organization. Raising and developing leaders, building systems, and aligning structures. At the individual, political, corporate, and national level, across all territories and spheres. Now, this vision was divinely inspired, and we believe it's possible in the midst of the hazy climate. Something I know about leadership, it has a way of commanding the authority of governments once it matures. And so it doesn't matter how the nation seems. Leaders always look beyond the horizon. Our mission is to establish a magnificent legacy of leadership all round, advancing the unique portrait of the African heritage under God through what we are doing now. And it's being birthed from Cross River State. All right. Yeah, this is how we accomplish our goals. Spiritual intelligence, strategic research, strategic collaborations. I tell people, we'll be living in self-deceit if we refuse to acknowledge the spiritual in leadership. There is no other way. I mean, we have tried things. It doesn't work. We just have to accept it. We are in a dispensation where we must acknowledge God. I mean, when you look at what's happening in the country today, you begin to realize that even the fool who says there's no God is becoming wise. Right? And so we have that. And then we do all of these media broadcast articles, and then creative advancement, creative technologies for the advancement of our vision and mission. These are our core values: a commitment to integrity, a commitment to personal responsibility, excellence and professionalism, a commitment to ingenuity, leadership development, self-improvement, accountability, very important in leadership development, hard work, truth, equity and fairness, accommodating diversity. Now, diversity is not the way the world defines it. What that means is positive synergy towards actualization of goals, and then we are committed fervently to uplifting people. Before we proceed, I'd like to say something. You know, when people hear the concept of leadership, most people, limit it to positions. Most people limit it to appointments in the political spectrum or in the corporate sector. Most people, religious people, limit it to, positions in church. But I want to say something. Leadership is the heritage of every child of God. Leadership is the heritage of every child of God. We don't have it in our formal educational systems curriculum because it cannot be found there. We don't have it most times in church. The full concept of it is not taught because it's an art. Leadership doesn't just come by the anointing. Leadership comes by wisdom and knowledge. You may have the anointing, but if you don't have wisdom, you can be a pastor and not a leader. Not all pastors are leaders. Not all fathers are leaders in the home or leaders to their wives as husbands. Not all bishops and overseers are effective leaders. You will not understand until you meet those who are under them. The truth is that we live in a territory that has been given the mantle of leadership. In West Africa, maybe not the only territory, but one of the most obvious. As the Bible proverb puts it, can any good thing come out of Nazareth? The narrative of Cross River State today seems like nothing valuable can actually come out of it. But if you can stretch your mind a little bit into the future past, you realize that Cross River State has a pioneering heritage. And I refuse to use the word hard because I still believe that Cross River State is still pioneering. And so if we find ourselves in a territory that custodies such a mantle under God, then we must realize that there is something that made God appoint an event such as this. So we do not take it lightly, but we come with open hearts and minds that are tuned towards seeing how we can maximize ourselves within the context of the knowledge that's given us here, and then within the context of the revelation that God gives us in our secret places. I'd like us to open our hearts, be focused, give ourselves fully to the cause of leadership. It's tasking, highly demanding, but the rewards are eternal and priceless. And so once again, I welcome you to this summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that speech. And I believe that has, put us on our feet, and we're expectant of what is going to happen tonight and the remaining 4 days. Okay, so we're going to give a quick rundown of our facilitators, a profiling of our facilitators. We'll start with Professor Francis B. Song. Professor Francis B. Song is a professor of geography and environmental science, twice dean of the postgraduate school of the University of Calabar, and pioneer dean of the Faculty of Environmental Science. He served as a member of the World Bank Forest Investment Program, FIP, expert group, and the UN Environment International Resource Panel, IRP. He is currently a member of the UN Multidisciplinary Expert Group of the Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Service. He is the convener and initiator of the African Green Growth and Development Forum, a think tank civil society membership network focused on the promotion of particular economy in Africa through policy-based research. He also chairs the COSO International Project Technical Committee, PTC, on ULEAD, and is currently focused on green growth and sustainable development in the renewable natural resource sector, land, forest, and biodiversity on climate change adaptation. He is the CEO of Integrated EcoDev System Consult. Please can we put a round of applause for Professor Francis B. Song. Okay, this is the profile of Engineer Emmanuel Nzioka, who is seated right here. Engineer Emmanuel Nzioka is a change management professional with vast experience in heavy industry processing, competencies in electronic engineering, operations management, human resource, and manpower development management. He's a managing director of Charis Harrigs, and that has been on for 8 years, providing innovative solutions in change managing business. Change management, Lafarge United Cement Company, Nigeria. He's been an energy isolation manager, still with Lafarge, Sub-Sahara Africa and Indian Ocean. Human resource manager, Lafarge East Africa, Kenya. Training and development manager, Lafarge East Africa, Kenya. Artificial intelligence manager, Lucia Champion, Lafarge Universal. Control inference engine, Lafarge East Africa. Production manager, Lafarge Mbeya Cement Company, Tanzania. My God. Section engineer instrumentation, Lafarge East Africa, Kenya. I don't know how you want to clap, you want to sit, you want to stand, you want to jump, because I'm scared. A round of applause for you, sir. Whew, that's a lot. I don't know how many years of schooling we have to go through. Hello, young people. Dr. Paul Simon Bassi, MBS, BS, FA, GBA, JP. Former Dr. Charles Bassi, Adem, I believe there was a change of name. Yes. Is a seasoned medical practitioner and change agent of outstanding character with over 40 years of experience. He founded St. Charles Infirmary, Calabar, that was in June 1988, and remained medical director till May 2000. a medical director of CREL Hospital, Akampa in 1996, personal physician to military governor of Cross River State, 1985 to 1988. He's been a personal physician to the deputy governor of Cross River State between 1992 and 1993. Physician IC of Cross River State Christian Pilgrim to Israel in 1995. Chairman, Association of General and Private Medical Practitioners, Cross River State, 1996 to 2002. He's currently the Vision Coordinator, Hope of Glory Missionary Foundation. Please celebrate Dr. Paul Simon. Mr. Joseph Idiege. He is a seasoned business and management consultant possessing competence in ICT, fintech, hospitality and tourism, brand identity, idea and product development, and much more. Mr. Joseph Idiege is currently the managing partner of Switch City 2017 till date. He's been a sales and marketing manager of Swiss Hotel 2016 and 2017. He's a business development manager, or he's been a business development manager at Tinapa Business and Leisure Hotels 2016 to 2012 to 2016. Mr. Joseph Idiege set up of Switch City Academy. That's a business and vocational training center to boost entrepreneurial development in the teeming unemployed population. Under Switch Academy, we facilitated trainings for United Nations High Commission for Refugees and Mediatrex. Monster Capital, a subsidiary company that facilitated reliable blockchain investment and trading. Droplets, also a subsidiary company that provided daily saving structures for transporters, thus creating platform to own a car with ease on a flexible saving and repayment plans. Prime Heights Properties, another subsidiary real estate management company that offers a flexible housing mortgage plan under NHF and CHF scheme for government workers and private business owner. Please let's celebrate Mr. Joseph Idiege. And right now we're taking the profile of Mr. Emmanuel Sam, who is the lead consultant of Seashore Leadership Initiative. Mr. Emmanuel Sam is a human capital developer and creative leadership consultant with a dynamic, pioneering approach to leadership as a principle of reformation and societal transformation. He is an administrator and management personnel. He managed the Miracles Properties, a real estate firm based in Port Harcourt, River State. He was also a manager of an oil and gas firm, now defunct, in the same state. He has been an administrator and executive secretary of Living Faith Church Worldwide, Cross River State, as well as a Bible school coordinator of the same institution. He is the lead consultant and executive director of Seashore Leadership Initiative, an initiator of Integrity Concept, an online publishing firm, and the host of the video broadcast Leadership Today. He is a senior pastor of Kingdom Ambassadors Network, headquartered in Calabar, Cross River State. Please, can we celebrate Mr. Emmanuel Sam? And that is all of our profiling for all our guests. And once again, a round of applause for them all. I'd like to invite Mr. Joseph Inyang as he takes up the next item. Thank you.
I believe knowledge is a global property. So you take knowledge from wherever it comes from, but apply it to suit your situation. It is common property of the world. Wisdom is profound, but it is not enough.
But what has hindered us up to this point is poor leadership. We have all it takes. There's nothing we lack in Cross River State.
The university cannot change you except you don't know what you went there for.
But you know what? The world is better when we are cooperating.
There is no man with a vision of things.
There's nothing bad starting from a locality.
Follow the steps and you'll find success at the end.
Come on, are you not sure of that, your neighbor, or you're afraid of COVID? Okay. I see. But just say, okay, you can look straight, even though you want to look at the neighbor, but say, neighbor. Say, neighbor. I see you in the next dispensation.
I see you in the next neighbor. Neighbor.
It's true. I see you in the new dispensation.
I see you in the next dispensation.
Because you've looked beyond the horizon.
Because you've looked beyond the horizon.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, please permit me to most respectfully invite my boss, the lead consultant of the SLI, Mr. Emmanuel Sam, to please do the icebreaker, take the very first session, and open up this event. Please listen attentively. Is that how you clap for a lead consultant?
Thank you, MC Joe. You have a way of hyping us, eh? Okay. Great. Wow. I'm most privileged. You know, this morning I was with a colleague in the office, and I said, what am I going to talk about as it has to do with leadership? And someone said, don't worry, when you get there, you are loaded. And that was a good reminder. Tell the next person seated to you, you're loaded. Yeah. You know, sir, when you spoke to me today and you requested for that which you asked us to arrange for with regards to the sessions, I was humbled and I was excited. I was like, wow, you mean you would really want to do that? I mean, it triggered something in me. My antennas shut up that God really has a plan. I mean, in the midst of your hectic schedules, you're here today. Thank you so much. I want to start by saying that I think that was 2014. I began to ask a couple of questions. I asked questions such as, why is Cross River State always the last state to receive things in Nigeria? At least within the context of the Southwest, the Southeast, and the South-South, and then parts of the North. I kept asking questions like, I was talking to God actually, is it that we don't have resource persons in Cross River State? And another question I asked was, if there actually are a few people, you say there are always a remnant left, are these ones now going to die without depositing anything with the next generation? Those were the kinds of questions I used to ask back then. And I would tell the Lord, if there is anybody that must be at the forefront of your agenda for my generation, I want to be the person. I would think of retired police officers. I would think of retired military men. I would think of retired civil servants. And I would say, even if the system wasn't favorable or doesn't seem like something that has value, these men have something. They have experience and they have age. And so I would say, God, why not see how you can help me to extract things from these people and pass them to our generation so that we will not suffer? Because God gave me a revelation about mentorship many years ago. And so I used to dream and see myself carrying booklets and a jotter and a pen. I'm going to sit down before old men and I'll be asking them questions. They will tell me and I'll be taking notes. I saw those things in dreams. Now, I didn't understand then that these were not just questions of my heart. These were God's desire. And I'd say I needed to mature a little bit in my quest for knowledge, wisdom, and wealth of experience from those who have gone ahead of us. And so many times I would find myself asking the most unusual questions. And people will always say, why do you ask these kinds of questions? And I said, because I want to be different in my generation. I didn't like the way things were going. Matter of matter of fact, I ran away from Cross River State because I did not want to be identified with the Calabar man. I'm very sorry if you're an Efik man here. That's the truth. I didn't want to be identified because the narrative then was these guys are lazy people and they have little value for knowledge. I didn't want to identify with that. So I ran away, and like Jonah, the fish swallowed me and brought me back. Sometimes the questions, the silent yearnings of our hearts are a pointer to what we've been called to do. These silent yearnings could be described or defined as the thrusts of our leadership. And so I hope that we can pay attention to the genuinely crafted desires that are going to be stirred up by the Spirit of truth in us as we journey throughout these sessions. Today, that dream is becoming more and more reality. I'm excited that I could be doing this. It's a privilege. And I have a team of supportive young people. We all make up SLI, beginning with my young wife. She's very young. She's like, is it 16 or 17? Right? Wonderful people. Don't worry, I don't do child abuse. A lovely team of people who have stood by me. We have several of them here. We'll celebrate them at the right time. Thank you. So, first of all, we need people who are more hungry for wisdom than money. Young people, we need people who are more interested in wisdom than money. We need people who are more desirous for value than immediate gratification. The path of leadership is not for the masses, it's for the few. There are very few leaders, genuine, authentically crafted and built up leaders in every generation. Very few. Maybe before I was born, there has been. But I know I am unique in my generation. Every leader needs to understand that you shape your world. Of course, maybe 90 to 95% of us here are Christians, so we have all the sermons. But let's stretch our minds further. Do we really have people in society, especially in the political sphere right now, who can genuinely inspire us? Do we really have people that we can look up to and say, these are role models? I wonder which politician I can walk and meet. There are a remnant, definitely. But you can't see them except you have a desire for wisdom. Somebody asked me a question some time ago, say, how do you always connect to this kind of men? How do you, is it that you knew them from somewhere or something? I said, no. Wisdom guides. Wisdom guides. Wisdom connects. By wisdom, creation was framed. There are framings in creation that as you give heed to wisdom, it begins to connect you to frames that establishes you as a structure. Leadership is not just a need, it's a demand from this generation. We must understand that. I see people given to pleasure in such time as this. You know, sometimes I hear that people still go to clubs now. And I ask, if me I'm living in this world. Because with what is happening, if anybody is still going to the club to, in quotes, dance away pleasure, dance away pain, in my opinion, they are the most ignorant people on earth. Right now, danger meets you in your own house. I mean, if your own government is confused, then you know that there is a drastic approach we must have toward leadership from henceforth. I tell people it's okay to read John Maxwell's paradigm on leadership, but I learned something by wisdom. There are people in your territory who have fought the battles that are uniquely suited to your territory. When you connect with these ones and drink from their wells of wisdom, then you stand a chance of conquering. You know, we see people read a lot of foreign books and we devalue our own content. I had to tell myself, except on very rare occasions, I look for people who are local content and see how I can patronize them more. Because we have a spirit that the oppressors engineered or framed into our ecosystem. By the oppressors, I mean dark spirits manifesting through our colonial masters that hasn't left us. Mental oppression is still very strong. That's why most leaders, political leaders, steal and steal and steal, and they keep stealing even when they don't need it. It's not the money that is the problem. It's the culture. And so I'll start by saying leadership is, genuine leadership is the culture for the new dispensation if you want to be relevant. If you're going to be relevant, you have to be authentic. There is no room for duplicity anymore. There is no room for that. I was privileged to touch the other part of life very well before I came to know Jesus. There's nothing there. I can say it. I touched it very well. I've come to realize that it isn't difficult actually. Washing away the filth of slavery is the challenge. Africans have so lived in despair that we are afraid of becoming ourselves. In my opinion, it's better to die for what you believe in, that is positive, than live a valueless life. In my opinion. And I live with this mentality every day. I'm willing to die for what I believe in because it pleases my maker and it gives me fulfillment. If you don't have this approach, your leadership potential will be cut off midway. This is leadership from a kingdom perspective. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm very sorry. But we must understand that we've been called to value, to an upgrade, to distinction. I just have a few definitions of leadership. Let's proceed, please. So what is leadership? Meanwhile, that's my topic. That's the topic of my session, leadership intelligence for the new dispensation. I'll start with a brief storyline about something that's going on around the world. China, right now, the Chinese military, it's been discovered, they've been hacking into the DNAs of people, of pregnant women who are about to deliver. They in over 48 nations, they carry out prenatal tests. As the women put those things into their bodies, they have a database in China where they get the records
of the DNA of the woman and the child. Now, when technology begins to invade people's privacy within the context of morality and spirituality, because that is life now, then you understand that we are no longer living in the kind of world we used to live in 10 years ago. And I ask a question. Why DNA? And something, a group called the BGI Group, in collaboration with the Chinese military, they made a statement. They said the reason why they are doing that is for Chinese national security. What? Chinese national security, basically. And I ask the question, which country can actually threaten China today? Even the US is threatened. But of course, nobody is able to question them because many nations and leaders have been bought over. And right now, it's been discovered and they are not saying anything. Why DNA? Now, what has the military got to do with that? I thought it would have been medical doctors. Why the military? When we begin to ask the right kind of questions, we will understand why our leadership paradigm has to come from God and God alone. Because the kind of battles we are going to be facing in this dispensation, you can't be reading motivational books anymore. There has to be a reason beyond you. There has to be something beyond you that makes you think that this is why I am born and I'm living for this purpose, and that thing drives you to the point that you're willing to lay down your all to see your deposits in your generation. All right, so let's just take a few definitions of leadership. What's leadership? These are my definitions. It's the fabrication of wisdom in the heart of mankind towards the exploration of its inherent as well as external resources for mutual benefits. And this is an order in creation. This principle applies to both the children of light and the people of darkness. These are basic principles. It's the ability to shape reality by converting and transmitting value from within towards corporate benefits, thereby establishing influence. I refuse to be non-influential in my time. I must leave a mark. Please tell yourself that. I must leave a mark in my generation. Listen to me. As a burden, I discovered that the past 10 years, we have been shaped more by social media than wisdom. And so it's wisdom to go to the older generation that had not been contaminated in their formative years to extract from their wealth of experience. That's wisdom. With what's going on right now, we have so depreciated in value because social media has become the norm. I had to discipline myself by deleting my Facebook app so I can go on Facebook once a month. Matter of fact, the past 1 month plus, I only went there a couple of days ago because we're publicizing our conference. These things corrupt our value within when we are addicted to them. And so people gain influence by our time, our energy, and our resources, and we can't influence them back. Well, we must be able to convert and transmit value from within too. Zuckerberg says he doesn't believe in God. And so if he doesn't believe in God, why should I spend much of my time on his platform? I can't. I can use it, but I don't allow it to control me. Why? I must also influence him. That's That's how we must think. You can't influence me by darkness. I should influence you by light. And so it's the act of manifesting one's authentic self. The spirit of slavery deprives you of your authenticity. This is the deposit in our souls, the poison embedded and ingrained in our systems, manifested in our educational curriculums, our political and economic systems. In business management, they will tell you that the best way to do business is by getting loans. Principles are interpretations or blueprints of principalities. As a principle, the Bible says a borrower is servant to a lender. Well, your Senate just approved another loan for a government that is, in my opinion, dysfunctional. And you wonder why the people in position are not actually the people ruling. So, we must manifest our authentic self. Everyone's authentic self is connected to a corporate structure. And every corporate structure in its authenticity is connected to a territorial structure. In other words, when we begin to find our genuine selves, we can shape corporate structures which we interact with daily. And by that, we can discern and establish our territory on the path of fulfillment of its original purpose. I believe this is what God is calling Cross River State into within the context of the nations. Is the act of engineering our aspirations towards a noble cause while incorporating the authority of others. When you begin to discover your leadership, you begin to realize that you begin to connect with people who help you fulfill yours while you're also helping them fulfill theirs. The interconnectedness of life cannot be overemphasized in the place of leadership development and leadership establishment. We must understand that. Now, it's inspiration finding expression through man for the benefit of mankind. All of these formal education systems today, which they give us certificates for, were people's inspirations. A consistent development of these ideas over time evolved into schools of thought. And these schools of thought, finding a wider expression, began to shape paradigms of people. People began to accept them because these principles were beneficial to humanity, even though for most there were ulterior motives which men may not have discerned at the time some of these principles were being propagated. So it's important to understand that this inspiration finding expression for the benefit of mankind, so that we don't take on the leadership path of Adolf Hitler. Most of our leaders don't understand this. And so you have this orientation of, we go into politics because it will help me to solve my problem. At least I can build a house in my village. At least if I become local government chairman, I'll have a local house. You see, the reason why men think like this is because the spirit of slavery is still there. I have researched it, I have sat down, I have thought about it. The joy of living for others, you can't find it through any other means. The joy of living for others, you can't find it through any other means. And I'm amazed. God in his infinite wisdom made it so. All right? And so, leadership is the connecting link between purpose, action, and fulfillment on the individual, corporate, and territorial level. It's the connecting line. As you discover your leadership, you begin to find your blueprint in creation. That scripture that says, the
the earnest expectation of the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. That's just what is captured there. As you begin to manifest your leadership, creation begins to respond to you. The future is inside of us. Manifesting leadership bets the future. The future is not somewhere. The future is inside. Leadership is the capacity to guide our thoughts, words, and actions from within and channel them productively towards a well-defined endeavor. From within. It always starts from within, because once you are inauthentic, you are, I won't use the word at time, but you are a contaminant to people. You are toxic to the lives of others. And this toxicity is what we find everywhere in society. When we aren't authentic, we begin to make others suffer because of our ignorance. This is why the most important thing in life is to discover who you are meant to be. Discover your leadership. One of our facilitators just walked in. Celebrate Mr. Joseph Idiege. I think before they rush you, we have a seat in front for you, please, sir. May you just, so that I don't rush you. Thank you. God bless you. You cannot just be behind. Thank you. All right. So now, it's the greatest act and manifestation of service to mankind, all of creation. In other words, when we manifest our authenticity, we are able to affect creation. The religious mind just wants to live, grow old, build a house in the village or in the city, have a good car, stay in a rocking chair and die, and go to heaven. As much as we are certain of the rapture, in this dispensation, that's not what is required. I think the gospel of this dispensation is occupy till I come. We have to occupy. For those of us who are pastors, we can make a lot of noise in church because there is a structure. When we step out there into the spheres, that's when we know if we are real leaders. Enter the battle line where someone is smiling with you, and we call that courtesy, and the person is planning your downfall the next minute. Leadership guides. It regulates our intentions. It helps to nurture our aspirations. It helps keep us on track within the context of that which is the blueprint for our lives. Matter of fact, I dare say that without the discovery of your leadership, you are yet to live. All right, so let's move on to the next slide, please. So these are the questions I have, rhetorical questions. As leaders, we go very far. Ideologies frame school of thoughts which are actually pockets of realms of knowledge. All the isms causing challenges in the world today, socialism, communism, capitalism, all of these things are entities or realms that shape human perception as well as human function on the earth. These things are the real issues that leaders must address. If you don't go to the depths and begin to touch ideologies, then floating on shallow waters won't take us anywhere. The leaders in the new dispensation must be intelligent enough to perceive the ideologies that keep Africa, especially Africans, in perpetual bondage to the slave masters.
When we go for all these meetings, out there, and they sit down and they craft stuff, and they send us to come and use those to build curriculums for our educational, economic, and political institutions, do we take the time to discern the intentions behind those lines? Do we take the time to dig deep into the discovery of what these people intend to achieve? Because your oppressor will never give you that which will make you outsmart him. The oppressor can never give you knowledge that is meant for you. First of all, they damage your knowledge, they damage your mentality by giving you a curriculum that makes you see yourself below your potential, make you think you must depend on them, leaving out the God factor, and then they make you think that it is in coming to them that you are living. They kill you and then polish your face with oil. That's what our leaders are going through. There are a few of them there are always a few everywhere. When you meet them in secret and they tell you some things, you would wonder. But I understand something. I'm a pastor, so permit me. The children of Israel were in bondage for years. And it looked like the oppressors had chariots that could not go down. But you see, when men couldn't fight, God used creation to humble them. Like I said earlier, we are in times when even the fool must acknowledge that now it's only about God. Even the greatest fool. For that scripture that says, a fool says in his heart there is no God. Right now, a lot of fools will have to shift because they begin to understand, no, there is God. If I must survive, I must acknowledge that there is God. And so, what's the foundational source of all the ideologies that inform the structures of the various governing systems which we refer to as spheres? Foundational ideology. As much, you see, people praise capitalism and say capitalism is preferable to communism. Well, maybe that's social language, but I don't believe that. I believe that we need a kingdom economy, not capitalism. Because capitalism obviously is failing. That's why communism is rising. If capitalism was self-sustaining, communism would not rise. So there has to be a weightier ideology, which in the true sense of the word is not an ideology, but a channeling of a life source within the context of economy. Do we try to examine our institutional ideologies in order to ascertain if it suits our contextual framework? This thing they give to us every time, is it making Africa to become the best of itself? Is it these things that they import from there? Yes, there are good components to them, but if you look deep, I think a lot. So when I look into some things that they call policies, global policies, when I read all these IMF, World Bank policies, and I read those things, I'm like, how come our leaders can't see between the lines? Well, when you have a seed of corruption inside of you, your eyes will be blind. The veil will always be there until you want to live above the veil. What kind of mentality is required to retain and maximize the benefits of the good part, as well as maneuver the challenges that come with these alien ideologies? Because in the world of the spheres, you don't fight by gree-gree. There's wisdom. You maneuver, you navigate. In the midst of the smiles, you are as wise as a serpent and as gentle as a dove. Do we have the requisite intelligence to go into those places, become influential without compromising our stand? How do we navigate, maneuver the system of the beasts? Do we have precedents in order to inform us adequately on the modus operandi required for effective navigation through these, conjunctions, all these mazy things. You see them, you go like this, the thing is twisted. You're trying to understand and you find it more complex. Do we have now? You see, when I listen to the senators in the Western world when they are arguing passage of laws, especially in the U.S. House of Senate, which has captured my interest in the past few months, I realized that these guys always quote laws of over 100, 200 years ago. The only law that was quoted recently in Nigeria by our leader was grazing routes of 1950 something. That's what I saw on news. Grazing routes for cows. I mean, at least we try to follow news when we can. We don't see them trying to see how they could check precedents, laws that help Nigeria the time when it seemed as if all was okay. But they begin to say, go and check the laws for grazing routes of cows. When people begin to value cows more than human life, and it's either there's an exchange of hearts. I don't want to believe that, it's possible for a man to think like an animal. But as men, we are supposed to value each other more than things. When we begin to value animals above people, then we understand that it's beyond a normal man. Something else is working there. Are our current structures able to effectively interpret these ideologies in order that we can distill its value content to our advantage? There are many nations that can imbibe some of these concepts to their advantage. For instance, if somebody is mentally damaged and you give the person what is not suited to that person, you're further killing the person. How? You make the person proud in ignorance. Now imagine being ignorant and then being proud on top of that. Imagine what that does. Now that's the thing with African leaders. Someone was up here asking where were the other 28 people in the Senate. Well, they think it will not affect them. The challenge is they are not thinking. The America you want to run to tomorrow, America is collapsing if God doesn't help them. You can't run to China. So where are you going to run to if you don't make up your mind? Why serve people and live in hypocrisy? Speak. Let everybody be against you and then look up to God for your defense. Like I always say, it's amazing. There was a young man, as funny as it seems, his name was Tupac Amaru Shakur. He sang a song, Me Against the Wall. Well, that's the life of a leader. I don't like his approach, definitely. But wherever he got that inspiration from, something was speaking, his soul was just perverted. A leader is always against the current because you are living in the future today. Next slide, please. Qualities of leaders in the new dispensation. This is my own exposition. We must always discern intentions. Go beyond words. The warfare of words in the Senate, in the House of Reps, you have to stretch your capacity to see beyond the words and discern intentions. We don't pay attention to phrases and clauses. We don't pay. One of the things that characterize people who aren't leaders is that most of the time they don't pay attention to details. That doesn't mean leaders don't make mistakes sometimes, but when people don't pay attention to details, they don't attach value to details that they should attach value to, then their value for leadership is depreciating. You cannot not attach value to details because inside of details are codes of influence. Inside of details are codes of influence. We must research beyond the confines of conventional knowledge and wisdom. You must be hungry for something beyond that which everybody deems all right. You must be hungry for something more. You must always stretch. Living in the future now means that a lot of people are going to be uncomfortable with you. Because when you talk, people will ask, why are you like this? You know, we always talk about standing out, about being outstanding. And yet, when you want to stand out, people get offended. Because the people who genuinely desire that you stand out, most of the time, they don't even understand what it means to stand out. And that's the truth. Most times, in our ignorance, we destroy ourselves. We must transcend the boundaries of the obvious in terms of innovation and creativity. Just think about what the world will look like 20 years from now. What's the challenge the world is going to be facing? Begin to dig in. Begin to dig into the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Begin to dig in. You have to look beyond yourself, beyond your stomach, and say, how can I shape my generation? You know, Twitter, these things we call social media, these guys have shaped the narrative for the most powerful nation in the world. Facebook, Twitter, and Google. 3 companies changed the greatest nation on earth. Innovation backed up by some kind of anointing. Yes, there's some kind of anointing backing them up. Even the people who went to school, read very well, have leadership abilities and decide to serve their nation. They speak, and a small 30-something-year-old will stand and talk through Zoom, and they will try to pass policies, and they cannot pass the policies. Well, I want to say something. Whatever inspired their creativity, thank God for them. But God is interested in Africa. God is interested in Africa. And it's time we begin to rise. You never know how much you can manifest until you make the move. If you look, the Bible says, he that looks at the weather will not sow. It's going to rain, I won't go out. If you look at the insecurity challenges, you will not build. What's the issue? It's a distraction. That's why a leader is not afraid of death. So insecurity won't threaten you. You keep going. There are many nations who have gone through what Nigeria has gone through today, and they've survived, and now they are thriving. We are not yet in a full-blown war, but there are nations that have gone through war and they've rebelled. Don't look at the news. Pray for your country and ask for a vision to build. Maybe by your discovery of your leadership, maybe 10 of us here, Nigeria's problems will be solved. It's possible. In Cross River State, maybe when we have quality men, then we'll begin to discover resources. Don't allow your mind to be damaged by the narrative of the former political leaders. Civil service state, the money has. There is no state that has limited resources. When men begin to discover their leadership, they generate resources. That is the truth that I have seen. This is my advice. I'm communicating this to some people who are in the military right now. Must begin to establish institutions, formal and informal, to equip leaders with intelligence knowledge. Now, in the Western world, in Israel, in some of those places, they have informal institutions that prepare people. If you want to go formal with all of these things, what will happen is they'll use bureaucracy to frustrate you. You have to go informal. There has to be informal institutions. It can just be called mentorship. But people have to be intentional to learn, while people have to be intentional in giving out. I'm telling you. Now, we are praying, but are we building? Do we have a 5-year plan? Do we have a 10-year plan? Oh, while we were busy locked up in churches and praying and fasting and believing that the rapture will happen by 2000, these guys were strategically positioning men in the spheres, strategically positioning them. And today, the tree has become strong and has grown branches. Our axe is blunt. We are hitting with so much energy. The effect is minimal. However, we know that there's an effect, and the tree is actually going down. If you can see beyond the horizon, you will know what I'm saying. That there's an effect and the tree is actually going down. I mean, we cannot be inspired to talk about the future if this nation has no future. So whatever or whoever is the driving inspiration behind this summit, that entity is able to bring this nation or the systems of this nation to its knees under its authority. And we know that person is God. Right? Yes, it's possible. Political office holders. You know, recently somebody met me and said they wanted to form a youth arm of legislature and that they want to begin to carry some trainings for young people who are going to come into politics to begin to understand legislative processes. I was excited. I told them I'm going to partner with you. We're going to bring some House of Assembly members, a few of them who still have a good record, to begin to teach. It's informal, it's registered, but they're not making it open. They're not making it. I said, yes, this is a welcome idea. That's what we must begin to do. Begin to establish initiatives for perpetuity of knowledge in certain areas. This knowledge that people have received cannot die with them. We must extract it from them. When we take theirs, add with ours, then we become effective. We live meaningful lives. We become older than our age in our own dispensation. Right? That's how it is. So we must do that. And academic institutions must incorporate research. Now, while preparing for this meeting, I began to discover that most of the influential people, especially Bill Gates, how that man gained his influence was that he began to create research facilities in several institutions. Over time, incorporating some academics, he became, or these research bodies became whole departments, whole bodies of knowledge. And when they began to generate some kind of results, governments began to come into the picture. Governments began to buy into their ideologies because they had a way of giving out, a good impression concerning their intentions. Meanwhile, they had concealed dark intentions behind the scenes. Several of them. So these guys, research facilities. Research. Thank God for you, sir. I had to take time and read. Research. I'm like, wow. If we have research institutions, matter of fact, somebody told me, some years ago, my father would tell me, young man, listen, before I leave this world, you need to build a university, at least in your community. I said, before I build a university, I want to build a research institute. I didn't even know this when I was saying that. But something that will stretch people's minds to explore deeper. We are too shallow. We work because we want to earn a living. The most mundane paradigm of thoughts. Working to earn a living. To earn. We don't earn a living. Life has been given to us free. We don't earn life. I mean, how much can you add to yourself? We don't earn life. When I see that phrase, earn a living, I'm like, what is this? This is not. You don't earn a living. You can't earn a living. You can't earn life. Life is given to you. It's a gift of God. So some phrases are derogatory. They are mind twisting. We must be renewed in the mind. informal institutions with strategic initiatives towards the desired future. They must begin to rise up. We must not lose sight of the fact that we can still conquer in the midst of the challenges today. I believe it. I mean, it was during COVID-19, as a pastor, I began to use some kind of supernatural supplies that I've never seen before. During COVID lockdown, that's when I began to see resources were just coming in. Everything was, I thought you said this is lockdown, where ours was open up. So that taught me something. That's why God must be involved. There is no leadership without God. Forget it. Professional bodies must advance knowledge via informal means or within the ambit of. Okay, the next one, please. What do you have note? When we sabotage our right to leadership when we accept a stream of knowledge without an accurate understanding of the transactions behind its concepts, the wisdom of its permutations, and then the intentions of those who are powering it. We must, every leader that must be relevant in that dispensation, you must stretch. What is the source of this knowledge? I don't know if you want to pray, you want to recite, whatever. You must go that far because now foundations are being stirred up. That's why what is happening, you can't just sit at the Senate and change things. You must be coming from somewhere very deep for your voice to have authority to change things. Don't stay here and blame the senators. It's not easy for them. They don't know what you may know. So what are you going to do 5 years from now if you get there? What are you going to do 10 years from now if you run an organization? What are you going to do? Stop blaming them. Start preparing. What we can't change, let's not exhaust our energies, bringing out, exuding negative energy. No. Focus on building. What can I do to birth the kind of future we desire? Go deep in knowledge. Go to the fountains of knowledge. When we become more socially oriented than values oriented, we become indentured slaves to the subtle permutations of our colonial masters. That's what we are seeing today. This one is just what we are seeing today. That's, it amazes me that people are still writing letters to the UN to come and help Nigeria. We are not learning. You're writing letter to UN. Those guys have their challenges. Many of them inside, they are against you. You can't be writing to them. UN is not God. And until we accept that only God can change things, I'm sure that's why the Lord is allowing some things to happen. A politician will steal, and then when they come against him, he will write to UN. Look at the UN nations, what's going on. Things are happening beyond their control, and you're still writing to them. When you go deep in research, you begin to discover that nations that are not talked about, like North Korea, the kind of silent killings that are taking place there, backed up, it is said, by some of these UN bodies. Some of them, we can't mention their names here, doing things. So you begin to see that we are living in falsehood. Because we don't want to acknowledge God, those who don't want to acknowledge God, they will come to their knees. Right now, leadership has changed hands. Ideologies when we imbibe alien ideologies without a detailed research into its roots, we trade the security of the future. We trade, by our decisions, we trade the security. Very important. Every decision today is a currency of trade. Decisions are currencies. If you say, I don't want light, you're saying, I want darkness. Automatically. What is trade? Give this and get this. As you make that decision, you are trading the security of the future. If you don't get deep, this is not the time to dwell on shallow waters. This is not the time to listen to the kind of general gospel we've been listening to in church. That general gospel, this is not the time. We must go deeper. I learned this one from my research. When you give value to a damaged mind, its inherent treasure takes on the mold of its hosts, and then it cannot function maximally. Yes, you see people want to mimic what is happening there when we are meant to pioneer our own. We can imbibe some concepts from them, but it's meant to stir up our originality. We are not supposed to be like them. This is leadership. If there is no authenticity, there's no leadership. I ask questions like, these laws that we pass in the Senate and all these places, people gave it to us. Have we looked at the sufferings of our people to say, okay, how can we suit laws that is going to affect our people positively? Because policies shape not just whole nations, but whole dispensations. The reactions from negative policies in society can affect from the husband will quarrel with the wife will quarrel with the children. They are angry because President Buhari passed something. That anger will spill over into the workplace. Now the family unit has been affected. It's now affecting the workplace, the corporate sector. From the corporate sector, the man on the streets, as you go to buy roasted maize by the roadside, the lady delays your change. You bring the anger from the news you heard, and that woman has been under the sun from morning till now. And she asks you, Nami, do you? And then she gets angry and spills the coal on your body. And then what's that? And then police comes to pick you from there and takes you to the cell. And then you now pay 10,000 from your meager 30,000 that you've been expecting President Buhari to increase minimum wage, and he has refused. One bad policy has affected the entire spectrum of human endeavor. That's why we must go deep. Matter of fact, why can't lawyers just give back to community by raising informal units to begin to teach us about the Constitution? I don't know how many Nigerians know about the Constitution. We are supposed to be at least secondary school. We should begin to know our Constitution, so that some people will begin to be burdened with the need to change from secondary school. Grow with it and begin to be inspired toward change. By the time they finish university after like 10 years, from JS1 till they finish maybe years 5 or something in law, go to law school and come back. The burden in them has been cooking for the past 10 years. And if they have God on their side, when they stand to speak, there will be authority. Every lawyer is looking for 10%. We are not looking toward building the next generation. I don't want my children, throne room and ark, to grow up and come and ask me, Daddy, what did you do in your time? We heard your name, we heard that you were a preacher, you were this, that. Why couldn't you change something in your time? That's why I refuse to be a preacher in the four walls. Thank God, God didn't create me so. So, this is who I am. We must challenge the mentality of our people. I talked about being cross-disciplinary. There are lawyers who are FBI agents who are now political office holders. When they speak from various fields of knowledge. Their words carry life there. And you just train to become a medical doctor because you have never had a doctor in your family. Say, our family, we hope that we'll have a doctor so that when we grow old and get sick, they'll come and treat us. I used to hear those kinds of things. See, we need to have a lawyer in our family so that they argue for us, so that in case we fall into trouble, we speak for Yes, the African mentality. Always thinking survival, self-preservation, rather than influence, impact. Who damaged our minds? The colonial masters. They made us feel inferior. They made us feel that we are not self-sufficient. And we have imbibed this for too long. That's how much I tell you. Very soon, we are going to be hosting meetings with lawyers. If it's prayer you want, come. There are pastors enough to lay hands. Please celebrate Pastor. We are going to just came in. Maybe that was your anointing. You lay hands on the lawyers. Yes. Because you never know what you can accomplish until you step out. Now, this is the part that I have discovered. I've been researching on skill and talent for a long time. Our mentality toward the subject of skill and talent matters in leadership influence. No, this wasn't well articulated. When we remain in the realm of skill development for survival, Notice they call talent hunt. Say, learn a skill so that you can survive. That's the vocabulary. That's why by the grace of God, God has helped me to choose my friends carefully. There's a way people talk. Maybe we only talk on phone. We can't really sit down and talk much. Learn a skill to survive. Mark Zuckerberg learned a skill. He's ruling over governments. You are learning a skill to survive. At least if nobody in the Bible and around here inspired you, that Facebook you've been pressing every day, that was a skill. Today, it's a throne of influence that's become a beast. You see governments being scared of it. It can also happen to those who have a desire to change society positively. A skill, the end of every skill is a throne of influence. The end of every talent or skill is a throne of influence. And so, as I leave us here today, I want to ask us a question. That skill you have, how much are you willing to see that skill develop into becoming a scepter of influence in your generation? That skill. Are you willing to give up all and adhere strictly to the principles and values that will help nurture and sustain that skill, that talent, in all integrity towards the actualization of your leadership potential? This is a burden to me. I can give up everything for leadership in my generation because at least until the rapture, I want to enjoy a little bit of life. And we cannot grow in isolation. We all need each other. So don't see this as a teaching. See this as a discussion and then probably a stirring. I'm saying let us wake up. Let us wake up. It doesn't cost anything to make the right decisions. It doesn't cost anything. Even if you make the wrong decisions, you will still experience pain in this life we are living. Right or wrong, there is pain to experience. Why not go through the pain of trading the pleasures of now for a desired future than the other way around? I hope that we've learned something and we're going to go back inspired. I hope someone's dream tonight can be towards noble aspirations. I hope someone is going to go back to a drawing board and say, I want to change things. And say, in my community, in my sphere, in my family, I don't want to be small. I want to live a significant life, irrespective of what they call faulty foundations, irrespective of the limitations of witchcraft, which Africa is. We have a way of announcing those things. Irrespective of what people think about our yesterday. Oh yes, concerning me, it was said this boy is going to be a useless boy. Because I was wayward then. I was the gangster of the house. I loved Snoop Dogg. He was my mentor. Yes. I loved him so much that I would put his picture on my room door. Even my dad won't touch it because if you touch it, you're in trouble. And the one I put there, he had something that nobody wants to talk about on his lips. Very big one, just there on my room door. My sister is here, she knows what I'm saying. I used to think that was life. But one day I sat down and asked myself, I said, come. I know I have good dreams, but this guy, the way he's going, these are guys who go into prison and come back. Now, that's America. Africa, if you go to prison, my stubbornness had taken me to a cell once. I think I was 16 years. Something, my cousin and I was taken to jail and, they put me in the cell, one cell police station. And they said, this small boy are very stubborn. They dragging my ear and all that. So when I remember that cell experience, I'm like, these guys, Actually, God helped me, and God can help anybody here. I'm telling you, there are things we cannot say. Routes where we thought we were living life. When we come back and sit down and we look at it, we know, God loved us. There was a purpose, there was a plan. I would leave a place and they will come in there and pick people there and they will not come back alive. Many will be locked up in jail. I will most likely be the only person who escapes. Something was always leading me out. As you live here today, sit down and ask yourself, what are the things that would have taken me out and God preserved me? And so if God has preserved me, then there must be a reason. And I would live to see the reason why I'm alive today, as well as fulfill the intentions of my Maker. Thank you very much.
I believe knowledge is a global property. So you take knowledge from wherever it comes from, but apply it to suit your situation. It is common property of the world.
Wisdom is profound, but it is not enough.
That what has hindered us up to this point is poor leadership. We have all it takes. There's nothing we lack in cross university.
The university cannot change you except you don't know what you went there for.
But you know what? The world is better when we are cooperating.
There is no man with a vision of things.
There's nothing bad starting from a locality.
Follow the steps and you'll find success at the end.